Did you know that touch is the first sense that humans develop? After just a few weeks in the womb, a baby starts to feel for the first time. While in humans the sense of touch develops so early, for robots we are still looking to find a workable solution to provide them with an artificial sense of touch. In fact, the development of our robot touch technology has in some ways lost priority among robotics research. And the reason is that roboticists could directly make use of an existing technology, cameras, to quickly develop another sense in robots, the sense of vision. And it is true that just by using visual sensing, robots can already perform several tasks. Using a simple, tiny camera, robots can see and understand their environment. They can observe the scene around them and plan their actions based on that, for example, to move from one room to the next. But is vision enough? Looking at humans, this is not always the case. In this experiment, a woman has had her fingers anesthetized, and therefore she can only use her sense of vision, her sight, to perform a simple task as striking a match. And she's having a very hard time just because she misses that valuable information normally provided by the sense of touch. And if we look at the opposite case, there are amazing things that blind people can do. The sculpture here is larger than human size and was built by a legally blind artist who can create such harmonious shapes just by using his sense of touch. These examples are just confirmations of how powerful our sense of touch is and how important it is for complex manipulation tasks. In essence, it is true that the visual sensing provides a general understanding of a certain scene, for example, for planning an action. But when it comes to feeling and interacting with the physical world, there is a need for a different type of feedback from the environment. And that is contact feedback, which can only be provided by the sense of touch. If you think about the human skin, our sense of touch provides our brain with information about pressure, temperature, humidity, vibration, even about pain, which is so important to detect or avoid danger. In robots, up till now, a very basic sense of touch has been provided with a type of device called a force sensor. However, these sensors are pretty bulky, they are stiff, and when interacting with the environment, they only provide information about the forces, for example, pressure, acting at a single point, at the center of the sensor. In contrast, if we think about the human skin, we have, for example, soft and dexterous hands, which provide us with stable gripping when we handle an object. And as you know, our skin contains millions of receptors which are not limited to a single point, but distributed all over our body. And this allows us to perform difficult tasks, as when we do not only use the hands, but also the chest and our legs to lift a heavy box. So how can we move from the stiff force sensors used up till now in robots to a soft, all-body skin that could give robots a truly dexterous sense of touch? At TEDxZurich, we have tackled this problem by developing a very simple and intuitive tactile sensing principle. If we place a small camera below a soft, transparent rubber material, and we randomly spread some tiny plastic particles within this rubber, once a force is applied, the material deforms and triggers particle motion, which is tracked by the camera. From the patterns created by the particles, we can extract information about the deformation of the rubber material, and therefore the forces applied to the soft surface. I'm going to show you what this principle looks like. This is a prototype of our tactile sensor, and inside this aluminum part, there is a camera which points upwards in the direction of the surface. Around the camera, there are some LEDs which provide constant illumination. Just above the camera and the LEDs, there is a rubber layer with thousands of plastic particles within it. You can see the top of this layer here in black. Now, on the screen, you can see what the camera captures, and if I apply any force to the surface, you can see how the image stream changes and the motion of the green particles starts to create different patterns. This device is very sensitive, and even better, it is extremely low cost, as essentially it is just a cheap camera combined with some rubber material. Nevertheless, it can provide information about a variety of different forces. If I apply a sideways force, you can see the particles all moving in the same direction. And if I apply some pressure, you can see the particles moving outwards. And of course, I can apply a combination of these two types of forces, and the particles will move again according to a different pattern. We can use the information from the image stream to actually calculate the location and the intensity of the forces. And you can see this here. If I apply pressure, this color code will show that more force is applied in the center, as shown by the red color. And I can change position, and you can see how this works close to the corners of the surface as well. And I can use multiple fingers or a different object. If you think about it, this is similar to what the human skin does. We can tell where and how strongly an object is in contact with our body. The way our algorithms make this possible is very simple. We derive mathematical models that describe the physics of the sensors, both for the camera and the rubber materials. We then use these models to simulate or essentially replicate the behavior of our sensor entirely on a computer. We have created an artificial intelligence program which learns the behavior of our sensor in the computer simulation to estimate the forces that are applied in reality to the sensor. This is the same as the Formula 1 driver who trains for a long time by racing on the same circuit with a computer game to learn the track and improve his performance once he sits in the actual racing car. What you have just seen is exactly the result of what our sensor has learned to do on a computer. For our tactile sensor, training on a computer simulation is a very important feature, as we do not need expensive experiments to calibrate this for real-world applications. And this further lowers the overall cost of our sensor. So what I've shown you is a very versatile tactile sensing technique. It is cheap and leverages from the rapid development of camera technology. Think about the cameras in your smartphones. They are more powerful than high-end cameras developed just a few years ago. Cameras today are lightweight, low-power devices, and thanks to these properties, we can think of applying camera-based tactile sensing to robot hands. For example, placing several cameras to sense the forces over the different fingers. Or we could even cover a whole robot body with cameras to sense the forces over a full artificial skin at very high resolution. In this way, the next generation of robots could carry out complex tasks that require additional feedback besides that from the hands, as is the case when lifting the heavy box, as I showed you in the video before. You are probably asking yourselves, what are the practical applications of this? Robotic manipulation is the most obvious one. In warehouses, for example, fleets of robots are already moving packages around. Once a package is loaded, they only need to localize themselves within the environment and plan their path accordingly. But when it comes to picking things, for example, to transfer the items across packages, this still needs to be done manually. And the reason for this is that robots do not yet have the right feedback when grasping the items, and the current sensors are not enough to perform this task reliably. And if you think about it, also in humans, there are many actions where touch cannot really be replaced. The woman I showed you before, she could not even grab a match. And how many times do you go shopping and see something you like, but you still need to touch it to perceive and assess its quality? Or when you go to the dentist and get your gum anesthetized, it is hard to chew or even speak. When we are missing the sense of touch, we cannot really do the most essential things. And robots are essentially in the same condition. There are so many things that they could be useful for, but the lack of a sense of touch is really limiting their capabilities. And beyond robotics, this technology has the potential to be extremely useful in other fields as well, for example, in the medical domain. Think about prosthetics and in general about people that have lost the sense of touch in some regions of their body. With the help of research that interfaces with the brain, we can imagine tactile sensors as the corresponding interface to the physical world, with the aim of making these people feel again. All these examples tell us that touch affects both us and robots in more ways than we realize. And at the moment, the lack of a sense of touch has a huge impact on what robots or machines in general can be used for. But in addition to the fields of application that an artificial sense of touch may revolutionize, building machines and robots that can perceive and interact with their surroundings will make them safer and maybe even less scary than they might seem right now. Thank you.